I'm at the point where I've now had to rewrite and re-record this video on 4 separate occasions because new shit just keeps coming out. First, there were the Bungie layoffs, then there was the Krafton Hi-Fi Rush buyout, then there was Concord being the biggest financial disaster in video game history. It just doesn't stop. Now, if I were smarter, I'd break down each of these issues down into their own little separate videos and make bank off of that. But I don't want to make slop type content. Hell, calling my videos content just feels dirty as is. I prefer this big, comprehensive video style because it gets all my thoughts out in just one go. So if you could do me a favor and consider pledging to my Ko-Fi, that would make this giant self-inflicted headache ease up. But without further ado, please enjoy the ramblings of me from nearly a month ago till now. Now, part 1 all began thanks to Microsoft killing Tango Gameworks not even a year after Hi-Fi Rush came out. Here we are now in part 2, beginning a similar way, this time with Krafton buying Tango, the Hi-Fi Rush IP, and even offering everyone who initially lost their jobs an opportunity to return. I'm gonna be honest, I've never seen something like this happen in the games industry, so I figured I'd give them their credit. And as happy as I was, I couldn't help but wonder who the hell Krafton was and what they worked on. After a quick Google search, I realized, yeah, I might need to make a part 2. Cliff notes are as simple as this. They made PUBG, Callisto Protocol, and they bought Terra. Krafton let PUBG slip through their fingers and let the BR race go to Fortnite. Callisto Protocol was a 2-pack of ass! And Terra kinda just fell apart once they got their hands on it. Now, if these Hi-Fi Rush deserve better videos have proven anything, it's that there's a passionate group of people who want to see this game succeed, see the devs have their visions realized, and see their efforts rewarded. It's up to us to hold Krafton to these lofty standards. Don't let them slip. Now, while a lot of AAA publishers are absolutely reprehensible, I'm honestly surprised I haven't mentioned Take-Two Interactive yet. Let's see, there was a GTA Trilogy Definitive Edition, very bad remasters of mobile phone versions of classic GTA games, removing the older versions of said GTA games from various storefronts in a half-assed attempt to push said trilogy. Seriously though, these versions are so bad you may as well just buy secondhand copies of the original versions or just pirate them. They also joined the Zero Fucking Morals Club and laid off 5% of its staff. Were you really hurting that bad and had to cut the fat? You only own the single product that has made you $8.5 billion. That's $2.5 million a day. With that kind of money, they could have easily have kept Intercept Games. Oh right, they shut down Intercept Games, the studio behind Kerbal Space Program. What a bunch of squalid fucks. I don't really expect much else from the owners of the NBA 2K games. Honestly, I have zero clue why people keep buying sports games as a whole. There's zero difference between each year. You all spend $60 a year plus online, but can't swap out the batteries on your smoke detector? That's fucked up. I guess Gearbox is pretty close to Take-Two. And now I know these guys are a development subsidiary, not a publisher group, and then there's that whole Embrace Your Group thing. But these guys are kind of special. Or more accurately, this one guy, Randy fuck-mothering Pitchford. Never before have I seen a single man who fundamentally doesn't belong anywhere near a spotlight. If you see him in a headline, it will not be for anything good. Whether it's him shitting his pants over loot boxes or him just being an overall freak. There was also that time where he left a USB that allegedly contained CP. This was all a part of some big lawsuit, counter-lawsuit thing that I don't really feel like going into, but all you really need to know is that eventually both parties dropped the suits. Now, legally, I can't call Randy a predator. I can call him a fuckwit, though. His most prominent bout of snake-assery has to be Aliens Colonial Marines. Matt McMuscle's video on the entire thing goes into far more depth than I ever could. So if you want to know more, go check him out, but wow. Gearbox being preoccupied with Borderlands 1 and 2 and Duke Nukem Forever, outsourcing to Timegate Studios, Sega wanting a Call of Duty-like direction, Gearbox constantly shifting and changing the game to fit their inconsistent-ass vision, their 2012 E3 demo being wildly different from the final project, all the while being touted as real gameplay. Once development on Borderlands 2 began to wind down, Gearbox stepped in, essentially having to redo most of Timegate's work because it wasn't good and didn't even run on PS3. And after 6 years of being in development and the anticipation of both Sega and the consumer weighing heavily on Gearbox's shoulders, they crunched. hard. And after 9 more months, they shat it out, and it wasn't good. It wasn't good visually, it wasn't stable, it was a product not properly represented in the demo material, which was touted as actual gameplay, and Sega had to pay for this thanks to a class action lawsuit. There's a whole lot of scummy legal shit that follows this, with Gearbox and Randy at the center of it all. Basically, to summarize, Randy Pitchford constantly finds himself in deep shit thanks to his big mouth and frat bro attitude, and should probably stay off of Twitter and focus on making good games. And now, good movies. Okay, Riot Games has to count as AAA, right? They make League of Legends, the biggest title in the MOBA genre. And oh boy, are they no stranger to hot water. Gender discrimination and harassment, censoring words such as Tiananmen and Uyghur, Ron Johnson's take on George Floyd, their planned partnership with the haters of human rights, Saudi Arabia, their MMO, which will never fucking come out, and if it does, will either go the route of New World and die after a week, or became what Arcane was to modern animation. Regardless, I win. Prove me right, I win. Prove me wrong, I have a fun game to play, and I still win. They also made Valorant, the game with the new shitty community in the video game scene, which in Riot's book makes 2 now. CD Projekt Red, most notable for their games The Witcher 3 and Cyberpunk 2077, have had their fair share of trouble. The Witcher 3 having self-described inhumane crunch. Crunch is already bad and undesirable, but having it be called inhumane on top of that is kind of fucking nuts. Cyberpunk 2077, I mean, do I really have to explain? It was one of the biggest gaming disasters I can remember. It salvaged itself thanks to a lot of updates and a pretty cool anime, but should have never have came out in that state to begin with. And now that things seem complete with 2077, CDPR announces they're working on a whole new Witcher trilogy, a Witcher spin-off, a Witcher 1 remake, a brand new Cyberpunk game, and an entirely new IP underneath the codename Hadar. Bungie. I know it's owned by PlayStation, but shut up and let me have this. Jesus Christ, this just happened. 220 employees laid off. 155 employees funneled into various PlayStation studios. Good lord, it feels like Bungie has always had something going wrong with them at all times. I'm actually genuinely confused as to why people like that franchise outside of Stockholm Syndrome. Fair enough. But right after these layoffs, the CEO Pete Parsons was seen spending $2.3 million on old cars. How tone deaf, how idiotic, how much of an actual fucking supervillain do you have to be to do this shit in broad daylight and think people won't be pissed? The funniest part of this tragedy is the last time Pete Parsons tweeted was last October. You know, the last time Bungie laid off their staff? First and foremost, do not witch hunt any of the people named in these videos. If I catch any of you harassing or sending any death threats, I hereby disown you and your actions. I do think that Pete should really retire at this point. His old ass hasn't had a win with any of his mid-games for a decade now, and now he has all this fucking money and stupid cars to keep his morally bankrupt self company. Fuck him. And since we're PlayStation adjacent, it wouldn't hurt to mention Firewalk Studios. In a video discussing stuff like mass layoffs, CP allegations, and overall human rights violations, making fun of a studio that decided to work on a hero shooter for 8 years kind of feels mean-spirited. Yeah, they acted like entitled children on Twitter when people gave them any criticism besides the whole low-hanging woke thing, but compared to the borderline criminal behavior we've seen from other companies, these guys seem pretty tame in comparison. I think it's important to ask, who was honestly surprised by anything surrounding Concord? The game was just another live service hero shooter. The game spent nearly a decade in development just not to stand apart from the crowd or do anything different than its competition or even be visually unique. And when every other game is asking you for both all your time and all your money to dedicate to just one title, obviously the rest are gonna fall by the wayside if they have nothing to distinguish themselves. Crying like a little bitch on Twitter and complaining about the people who aren't giving you money is how you dig your own grave faster, not climb out of it. When we have live services get both announced for their release and simultaneous cancellation in the same tweet, yeah, it's pretty safe to say that these games are cooked. Alright, I think I'm gonna cut it off here. The fact that you made it this far into the video is already doing wonders for my engagement, so thank you. If you want to take it a step further, I want to see if I can hit the eligibility criteria for a YouTube partner before Christmas. I also got this series where I talk about individual games, so consider showing that some love. If you're curious about the game in the background, it's Bomb Rush Cyberpunk. It's a spiritual successor to Jet Set Radio, and it's honestly earned the status of my favorite game of all time. If there are any AAA publishers I missed, sound off in the comments. And my final plug is once again towards ko-fi.com/VGFN_online. You want your name at the end of these videos? Just $5 a month is all I'll ask for. And with that, I think I'm gonna leave you guys with a quote from my favorite Pizza Hut CEO.
The game is fun. The game is a battle. If it's not fun, why bother?